90% of what we know we learned visually. And this not only affects people with visual impairments just in their day to day, but also in their education. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how that happens and maybe even a little bit about what you can do about it. Hi, I'm Cassie Maloney. I'm an orientation and mobility specialist and the founder of the Society of Exceptional Educators. We provide 21st century teaching techniques to all educators working with people with visual impairments so that way you can help skyrocket their success without you burning out. And this topic goes way back. It's one of the foundational topics that we talk about in our VI Foundations program, specifically because all educators need to understand the serious implications of what they're working with. Our students with visual impairments have a sensory loss, meaning that one of their senses, for some degree or another, is not taking in the information in the environment. And 90% of what we learn incidentally, which means we learn it without anybody teaching it to us. So think about the last time you went into a party and you instantly knew that you were dressed wrong. You could feel it down to your bones.
Just don't panic.
The social anxiety might start to creep up.
I have social anxiety.
The what am I doing here? The not knowing if you fit in, and what other people were wearing and what other people were doing gave you a clue as to what was expected of you. If you walked in wearing pajamas,
What are you wearing?
and everybody was in black tie, then you knew that at least you need to stand up a little bit straighter, you need to be a little bit more polite, things of that nature. If you looked around and you saw that there was a bluegrass band playing, you knew that you could grab a beer and that would be totally appropriate in that environment. Or maybe you could do something like wear your jeans instead of the nice ball gown that you had planned. All of these things are just tiny moments in our normal day-to-day lives that tell us a lot. Whether it's, somebody across the street gives you a weird look and then you're like,
What's wrong with my outfit?
"Oh my God, what are my clothes inside out?" Or like, "Is something wrong with me?" To communication with somebody up close and they are looking at you in some sort of funny way that gives you an idea of they don't like this, they do like this. How about when somebody smiles at you? It makes you feel good, right?
That girl just smiled at me.
All of those moments we take for granted because if you're watching this and you have a student with visual impairments, you have vision. Most likely you have vision. But for our students, a lot of that stuff creates what's called a concept gap. So I already mentioned that 90% of what we learn visually. Here's how it all breaks down. Think about the little baby as they're like cuddled up in their mom's arms, right? The little baby is learning what their mom looks like. He or she is learning what mom looks like when she's happy, when she's sad, when she's mad. And that baby is taking those social cues out into the world. So that way, when somebody else makes those same social cues, those same nonverbal communication with their face, they have a better idea of, okay, that person might be feeling XYZ, or, oh, that person might be thinking XYZ because when my mom exhibits that same face, she is thinking or feeling XYZ, or this event typically happens after that. Those are social cues that our learners with visual impairments often miss out on. As they get older, their friends become more important to them, and when they're out on the playground, they might miss social cues. When they are trying to play chalk with their friends, when they are then a little bit older and trying to date, they might miss social cues. And at interviews, getting a job, staying employed, all of that takes a great understanding of the expectations around you that nobody's going to tell you. Our learners with visual impairments might have habits that cause them to rock or stim or not understand when to stop talking. And people aren't necessarily going to tell them that it's an issue. Let's go back to the baby, right? You have a baby who's watching their mom make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They watch their mom make the same peanut butter and jelly sandwich for 5 years. The mom goes to the cabinet, she gets out the bread, she goes into the fridge, she gets out the jelly, she goes into the drawer, she gets out the knife, spreads the jelly, cuts the sandwich, puts the sandwich on like a cutting board maybe, and then cuts it, and then hands it to the kid. By the time that they are 5 years old, they've watched their mom make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich over and over and over again to the point where they know what jelly is. They know that it's kept in the fridge. They know that the bread is kept in the pantry. They know that the knives are kept in drawers. They know the motion of scooping. All of these small things add up. So by the time they get to school, they have a good idea of what a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is. And like, oh, maybe that other kid has a ham and cheese sandwich. Oh, maybe that kid's mom cuts it up into squares instead of triangles or oh, the other kid has a macaroni and cheese. All of these things that student is then just looking around and seeing and understanding that there are differences in items, there are differences in how the sandwiches are cut, there are differences in how you would eat things. There are differences in what utensils you might use. Now, let's take that same kid and let's actually take his peer who has a visual impairment. That peer with a visual impairment may not see their mom making that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They may not see their friend's sandwich is cut up in different ways. They may not see that their other friend has macaroni and cheese that day. All of these things are going to detract from the information that they have in order to put the schema of their life and their paradigm together. In Texas, we have to be in school for 75,600 minutes a year. That breaks down to 420 minutes a day at minimum because we have to be in school for a minimum of 7 hours. So if we think about 90% of what we learn is incidental, and that means that nobody teaches it to us. You can break that down to 42 of those 420 minutes, the learner is going to get their learning. But 378 minutes of that, unless the curriculum is adapted or accommodated, that learner has the potential to miss out on those minutes of instruction. Now, that's just an example, right? Of course, every teacher is working to make sure that every student is learning at every single moment because we do want to provide a fair and appropriate public education, of course, right? Like I'm not second guessing that in the least. But this gives you an example of in the span of one day, just one day, what does 90% of that day actually look like? 378 minutes. And 10% of that day looks like 42 minutes. So in total, you can understand then why there might be so many concept gaps that your student with visual impairments has to overcome. And that's normal and that's okay. In the world of visual impairments, we have what's called the expanded core curriculum. It is 9 areas. You can go look at our other videos about expanded core curriculum to see exactly what the 9 areas are. I've got you covered with that. And those 9 areas all target the rest of life. You know, school targets your academic life. The expanded core curriculum targets the rest of the things that you have to know, but you have to know them in order to produce results at school because our tests are normed for students with vision. They're not normed for students who have visual impairments. And so all of those concepts, all of those days with those 378 minutes, all of those other days with the 90% of learning that our learners with visual impairments might be missing out on, they all accumulate. And so, what we want to do as educators, of course, is to figure out the best way to serve each student individually so that way we can meet their needs. Stay tuned for the rest of the series. I'm going to be diving into exactly what teachers who are working with students with visual impairments and may not have the expertise need to do in order to be much more productive, much more impactful, and ensure the academic success of your students with visual impairments. Because I promise you, incorporating the ECC is not hard. It just takes a little bit of forethought, a little bit of planning, and the determination, and honestly, the integrity of the teacher to begin to implement these on a minute-to-minute basis. Because the loss of students with visual impairments that they experience in their education is not just like a one-time thing. It's in those small moments where the student is sitting off to the side and the teacher wants to do something but doesn't know how. It's in those small moments where the paraprofessional lovingly guides the student down the hall instead of expecting them to do it themselves because maybe they're in a rush, or maybe the student didn't bring their cane, or maybe the paraprofessional doesn't know how to use the cane. These things happen in teeny tiny moments, but they don't have to. Stick with me. I'm going to make sure that you know exactly what you need to be doing. If you're interested in joining the society, it's a free membership and I write you a newsletter every week. It comes with this video as well. And I will deep dive into the tips and the tools and the resources that you need to be an exceptional educator for your learners with visual impairments. Click the link below. Again, totally free. Pop off, anytime that you want. No big deal. I just want to make sure that you know that you are 100% supported here at the Society.